Welcome to our session on Fueled by Fear. Join us in this conversation around fear and fearless living. I just want to introduce myself and my friends. My name is Motla Lepule, and I'm here with Jackie, Huisimang, and Mina. And we're going to engage in issues around fear and fearless living. It is the late Jenny Clegg who liked using this concept of Kenya Pilla when he refers, to how he is doing life or how he was, because he's no more. I've always just liked that expression. I just like what it conjures in my mind when I think about Kenya Pilla. And what we're talking about in this conversation is exactly that. What that means is really just forcing yourself into living is when you have those moments of fear and you decide to rise up and to do life in the way that you know how, in the way that you want. So, Jackie, let me start with you. What in the book has resonated with you? What, about the message of hope? I mean, the message of fear has given you hope, or what in particular, has come up for you?
Thank you, Tlale. From my side, I could actually relate to many incidences in the book from different stages of my life, really. I think fear has always been there. And as I actually move from one stage to another, I had to develop different skills to deal with fear. So when I was a teenager, there was fear that pertains to being a teenager. When I was moved to a later stage where I was a wife, there were also fears, even in the career. So fear is all, exists in all spheres of our lives. So in my life, I find that I need to learn and relearn the skills, different skills of dealing with it in different areas of my life.
Thanks very much. And I think this is an experience of a lot of people where fear has almost like been a theme, in our lives growing up, in our lives in business, in careers, at work. And it's always interesting to just hear people's stories around, the experience and the message of fear. Huisimang?
Thank you so much. Picking from the book, first I think I need to say well done by producing that book. Fear, in my opinion, it's in many phases. There's many facets thereof, and there's many categories thereof, okay? But I want to focus on the learned emotion, okay? Whether you learned it willingly, voluntarily, or by force, okay? The issue of parents, okay? We grew up, in my time, fearing the elderly folks. But the irony of it is that if it was late and I was traveling in an open space where I feared to be attacked and I saw an elderly person, I felt comforted to be able to walk with them, okay? However, there's certain things that I would never do in the presence of an adult, irrespective of whether they were my parents, my relatives, or not. Either do or say, okay? At the personal level, you come to be conditioned into a situation where, for instance, I feared people's opinion about myself, okay? What will people say if I did X, Y, Z, okay? When you grow up, I did a lot of work. Somewhere I know that I need to be paid for the work I did. But you have a fear at the negotiation level to actually talk money, because there's a fear that I might not even get this job yet I need it, okay? And you end up depending on the person that you're doing the job for to decide whether they are paying you or they are not. As a result, I have been through phases where I've done a lot of work for a lot of people and never got paid. Now, how did I manage to pull myself out of that? You end up having to say, you know what? You're either going to pay me and tell me now how much you're going to pay me, and when you're going to pay me, how you're going to pay me, or the job is not going to be done. That's basically what it is at this point. Thank you.
Thanks very much. So I like those two examples. around the fear of money. Incidentally, we've had conversations around that as well, around how a lot of business people have a fear of asking for what belongs to them, for the work that they do. So we hopefully will be able to look at that a little more deeper. But also the fear of what will people say. After Mina responds, I'd like us to look at what does fear cost you? What are those things sitting here and thinking about that you know that if I could have asked for what I'm deserving, if I could have done what I want, regardless of what people would say, you know, so I'd like us to look at that to say what has been the cost. But let's hear Mina, you know, just about the resonance for you of the message of fear from the book.
Thank you so much, Motlale Pule. Before I read the book, I never thought about the topic of fear, even though it has been something that I've always lived with, both on a personal, at work, you know, in many other relationships that I have had. And from the book, there are so many incidents that I could relate to, from where you were growing up, and also the issue of abuse with women, because in my family I have had that kind of fear where I could see that my dad sometimes was just abusive. And you grow up, and these are some of the issues that you ask yourself, is this what life is all about? So where you speak about love and fear can never exist in a relationship, that's one of the things that I took from the book, and I feel strongly that why must I be apologetic about what I stand for in a relationship? So I'm going to just say, you know, that's one of the things, the principles that resonated so well with me.
Thank you very much for that. Yeah, it's interesting, you know, just all these facets, just the way we all have been touched by fear and how fear continues to be, you know, present in some of us, sometimes, you know, in other areas more than in other areas. So the question I asked earlier that I'd like us to engage in, the cost of fear. When you think back, what are some of those things that you could have done? Who could you have become if you did not have the fear of stepping out and embracing your calling, embracing the gifts and the talents that you have, that God has given you to serve? You know, who could you have become? What is that identity that never managed to take shape because of the fear? Or just any other experience that you can think of where fear has cost you? What are some of those experiences that you've observed, maybe with yourself or with people around you?
Thank you, Tlale. For me, I kind of battle with the understanding where I could have been, because when I look at my life now, I'm not sure if I have become the person that I actually wanted to be. I feel that at a stage when I was young, I really never developed into the person that I wanted to be because of fear. But even as I grow older and I have been able to identify the areas where I had to deal with fear, I'm not sure if I've actually improved or actually dealt with fear to the extent that, you know, I've become the utmost best or the best, you know, type of a person that I have been. I feel like it's work in progress, because in my career, looking back, there could be different areas where I would have negotiated better, like you have alluded to money. was something that I was never comfortable to feel comfortable enough to actually debate with my bosses or whoever. So I felt like I accepted whatever they offered me. And in terms of us being able to sell ourselves, even whether it's an interview or conversation where you need to have a raise or increase, I still feel like, uncomfortable, as if like I'm overselling myself, even for those things that I know I'm good at, I've done. But it still feels strange to say, you know what, I'm good at this, I'm good at it. Just doesn't sit well with me, because I was taught that that's not how you do it. You don't overpraise yourself, or don't praise yourself. Don't, especially as a woman, don't highlight the things that you're good at. I feel like that was the message, because I feel like even in my marriage as well, I sell myself, in the sense that I wasn't confident enough to say, this is what I want, this is what marriage is for me. So I had to accept what the man that I was actually getting into marriage to was offering me. But I never really asked myself, what is in it for me? So I felt that was not something that worked well for me. I feel like I should have actually said, okay, these are the deal breakers for me, and not accept whatever was just being given to me. So that is something, like I'm saying, that it should always be work in progress.
That is a very good point, the work in progress, because development, is something that we don't arrive at. Personal development is something that we pursue for as long as we are alive. So what you're raising is very fascinating, because, doing this work around fear, the issues that you're bringing up come up a lot, where people have a fear of negotiating, of selling themselves, where people continue to sell themselves short, and working as a leadership coach. Those are just some of the issues that come up when I work with leaders, to say, you could do more, you could tell people a little bit more about your successes, as an example, because that is how, you get people to know exactly what you are capable of. So it's very, very fascinating to notice the role that fear always play in us being able to do that comfortably. The other issue that you're talking about, the issue about relationships, a lot of us, we have experiences where, again, we haven't been able to stand up and go for what we want, because we fear being labeled, we fear perceptions, we fear roles that have been thrust upon us, that as a woman, this is what you do. You're not allowed to do that. So I want us to also look at, in this journey, are you at a place where you are beginning to give yourself permission to do the things that you really want to do, where you almost like get to a place of overcoming your fear, to say, in the past, I might not have done this, but this is where I'm at now. I'm free to do and to be who I want to do. Who I want to be. Let's hear from you.
I'm not sure if I'm at a place where I want to be. Maybe the moment has passed. Okay? But I can tell you that there is something I call self-sabotage, which get caused by fear. Remember that I said it's a learned kind of behavior. Okay? I can cite, she spoke about selling yourself short, okay? That's one of the ways, that's self-sabotage, okay? You might be having objectives and goals that you want to meet, and you know that it's your skill that can actually take you there, but when you go sell yourself, because of the fear of labels, you sell yourself short, okay? I'm going to make something that's going to make a whole lot of you laugh. I haven't had a wife for many years now, many years, okay? Because the fear is, I was in a marriage. Guys, you're not alone, okay? Men do go through this as well. Now it's a question of how do you react to try and correct yourself. My correction is that you become too critical okay? Because you fear to get in only to be left alone again. You're hoping that when I go in, it's going to be permanent, okay? In terms of my self-development, my studies, I would sabotage myself, trust me, okay? I would know that I can get this degree with distinctions, but you go out and do something that would actually make sure that that does not happen at a certain point, okay? I was saying to somebody, I studied at a master's level. I'm left with one module and a dissertation. What did I do? Found the easiest way out, quit, okay? Now this is self-sabotage, okay? Induced by this, for some reason, fear of not being seen to be the best amongst others. But it's a learned thing for some reason. I believe that it's something that passively, maybe, you actually learn from there. But I think the important point is that we need to find a way of reversing that, of correcting that, and do some repairs and find a way of moving forward. I'm still battling with that.
That's fascinating. Fear of success also has a role, you know, in stopping us from becoming who we're meant to be. And yeah, hopefully we get to engage a lot more around that as well, to see how we can turn that around to propel us to get to do the things that we're wanting to do. One of the work that I was privileged to do is work around completion. And it's something that resonates a lot with me because I also come from a place where I never completed things. But what I have found as a remedy, or what I have been thrust into because of that fear, is to really, really think deeply and think intentionally about the things I commit to, just to avoid, you know, because sometimes we get excitable, and I'm a very excitable person. There are a lot of things that I hear about, see, and I'm like, oh, I want this, I'm in there, etc. But I'm finding that as part of my growth, I'm having to be very thoughtful and very intentional, and to think beyond the excitement, to say 5 months from now, am I still going to be excited about this? 5 years from now, is this still going to be important? So when I do that, and I also look at the fact, of fear playing into that space, what is it that would come up for me? What is it that would come up for you? I don't know if it's something that is relevant to you, Mina.
Thank you so much. Yeah, when it comes to fear and what sometimes it has cost me, it's, you find out that because I was fearful to make a decision, maybe because we come from a background where you cannot speak openly about what you believe in to the elders. You need to respect the elders. And sometimes the culture that we come from, at the moment, some of the things I feel they are not really relevant. We need to speak openly about issues if I don't believe in what people who are elderly are saying. So at times you keep quiet and you find out that if you had said whatever that you thought about, maybe that decision could have been taken differently. And it becomes something that I'm learning to think and address issues with the elderly, approach them still in a respectful way, but say exactly what I believe needs to be heard. And also, when it comes to the work environment, I've also realized that fear of speaking up when tough decisions have to be made ends up when you leave, you don't know why did you decide to keep quiet when you could have spoken up and a decision could have saved everyone that decision could have been in the best interest of the institution. But sometimes because you are fearful of the person who's in charge, and sometimes if you say something, they hold it against you for your career advancement, and you find out that you are not really doing good when it comes to that. So it's work that is in progress, where I am learning to make sure that things must be said. If it means I must say them outside the meeting, I must still say them, so that we are all in the same level of understanding with my superiors. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you for sharing, in this platform around issues that have come up for you. And as we conclude, I just want to say the subject of fear is massive, it's big. I didn't know that up until I started to engage in it myself. And like you guys have indicated, that it's work in progress. I find that when I conquer the one fear, it's almost like there's still another mountain of fear to go up. And what I want to say, in conclusion is, let's go out there and let us embrace Kenya Pilla, and let us show up in every way that we can to be able to become who we are called to be. Thank you very much.